Hey everybody, this is Ennis.
Hey, it's Jim.
And we are Inner Solutions. So we're trying to make some videos for you about mental health in general. Particularly today, we want to talk about how your anxiety is often being caused by situations that you're just avoiding. Some people can refer to this as procrastination. Some people refer to this as putting things off. Whatever you want to call it, the point is that there's something that you know you should be doing, some situation that you got to handle. Whether it's something small like cleaning your room or something huge like getting out of a relationship. Whether it's something small like just paying the bill or something huge like getting a new job, it's going to have a big effect on you. It really, really is. And you may not see it, but we're just going to dive into that and all the ways that this has an effect on your anxiety and what to do about it.
Whatever it is that's keeping you in these crappy situations is anxiety. There's always an anxiety. So let's take a job, for example. Why are you staying at a job that wouldn't serve you, that you're not enjoying going into every day? Well, you must be anxious about putting food on the table for your family. You must be anxious about paying off those student loans. There's always some kind of anxiety. So a good exercise to kind of find if you're in the situation is pretend like you weren't worried about anything. Pretend like you were just, endless money, endless situations. You felt if it's a relationship, you could jump from relationship into a new one or find anything that you want, happy on your own, whatever. What would you do if you were just free from anxiety? And if you find yourself in these situations, which is a completely unrealistic situation because we're humans and we all have any level of anxiety, you'll find that these situations that you're in that are just stressful, that you're not really feeling, that you're going to work and loathing, they're breaking you down and they're leading into a negative feedback loop that keeps you stuck in the situations.
Yeah, and over time, it just has a really, really big impact on you. A lot of the anxieties that people are experiencing are because they've been in a situation that they're not happy with for a really long time. And so the ways that little things can cause anxiety in a minor way can really start to cause some damage in the long term if you've been in a relationship that is not good for you for a long time. If you've been at that job that's not good for you for a long time, or you've been wanting to move to a new city for a long time. And I mean, it doesn't matter what it is. If you've been in a situation that is not serving you, then there's going to be some part of you that's trying to leave that situation. And anxiety really can be summarized as the attempt to escape the present moment. So if the entirety of you is not there, and there's a part of you that's trying to leave the present moment, that's basically creating some background anxiety all the time. And so what we're really saying here is it's important to have some integration, some internal integration where all of your parts are happy with where you are. If there's a part of you that's just really hating it, then it's going to just cause damage in the background. It's going to try to keep you getting out of that situation. I mean, I've heard of people where they weren't happy with their job, so they ended up developing habits around eating, where they were eating a terrible diet and drinking too much and basically ruining their health so that they would have an excuse to leave the job. And this is not an uncommon story. The ways that anxiety can show up in your life to get you to deal with that situation can be way worse than the imagined pain around actually dealing with that situation.
Sure, and think about being in an unhealthy romantic relationship that's just kind of beating you down emotionally. You're going to need something to boost you. You're going to start to need some more coping mechanisms because when a relationship starts, these beatdowns, these kind of emotional tolls that it takes on your body, they don't happen in one situation. It's something that you'll habituate to and be conditioned to, and you get used to it, and you kind of get further off of your freedom state. You get further away from your baseline of feeling peaceful and integrated and excited all the time. And so if you're in a situation like that for years, your starting point is so different than your present point. And it happens so gradually that you may have lost perspective on how far off that you've come. I just got out of a 5-year relationship that was not healthy, and I couldn't believe how even just in the first few weeks my kind of mojo came back and like my open-heartedness came back, and just the toll that this emotional situation, this romantic relationship had cost on me was so much greater than I could have given heedance to, because it was over 5 years and it was just happening gradually. Now, you may hear your friends all the time saying like, "Man, you got to leave that job," or "Man, this is killing you." But you know, and you feel those anxieties that keep you tethered to whatever it is that you're staying tethered to, but it's having such a significant impact on you, and it's causing this incredible, need for coping mechanisms, downward spiral that's just cultivating anxiety.
So, to give a brief summary of what we're really trying to express here, even in the introduction and in the rest of the video, there's two main things. Number one is that situations that you don't want to be in over time can cause anxiety. And it's really important to identify those situations and know when you're in one. Then from there, we want to give you some tools to help you get out of those situations, because we know it's not as simple as like, "Oh, I didn't realize I hated my job. Guess I'll just quit." Obviously, there's some challenges that are both physical and mental and emotional that are blocking you from making that transition. So we want to give you some tools to get out of that. Before we go into more of that, please know that not every situation in life is something that you need to just eject out of. Sometimes a relationship can be difficult, but so worth it if you can move through the challenging parts. A job can be difficult, but so worth it if you move through the challenging parts. So we're not just saying give up and run away from things that are hard. We're saying something else, right?
Yeah, and it's also that we know that life is life. There are stressors in life. There are things you're going to have to learn to overcome, and there are responsibilities that you can't just run away from. So maybe we need to reel back because we got a little excited. But truthfully, I think the sentiment here is that we hear from clients all the time, and we can, we're from a very specific position where we can objectively see like what's going on. We can see patterns. We can see if a client's showing up every week and talking about their job and talking about their job and the stressors at their job, and their job is killing them. My job sucks and I hate my job. I literally was just on a call before we started doing this today where that is the case. And there has to be a point at which you say, okay, I need some form of intelligent exit strategy. So let's share some methods on how you can kind of just do a little bit of an audit to figure out, are you in a situation that can at least be, maybe you don't have to leave it, but you can at least be made bettered. That's a really good way to say it. Yeah, we got it. The first thing you can do, this is the really simplest exercise, is just take a kind of a state of the union. Like, what's the situation? Is it your job? Is it your romantic relationship? Is it the city you live in? Is it your relationship with your family? Whatever it is, and just write down, what is it? What's it like? Kind of the who, what, where, when, why, how, and also just like, how do you feel in these different situations? You're kind of identifying some of the trigger spots you have. You're taking a little bit of an objective view outside of it, okay? The next thing you can do in the column next to that is just write, what do you want it to be like, okay? And simply by just writing down and also just thinking about it, you're writing down so that you can intellectually reprocess the situation and reprocess your goals. So you might even do this and find that maybe you're just being, a little soft in the situation, or maybe you're just expecting everything to be perfect, and then you can recalibrate there. But what we're hoping happens is that you're getting really scientific about, where do I want to go? Like, what do I want my romantic relationship to be like? What do I want my professional or financial life to be like? Okay. Then you can start to creatively brainstorm how to bridge that gap. What can I do to make this relationship better? Maybe I can try couples counseling. Maybe we can do a book club and a couple skills book. Those are two things that I did in my relationship that were actually really useful and amazing. But you can start to do some creative brainstorming. Now, when you're creatively brainstorming, try not to judge whatever it is, the techniques you want to use to better the situation. And it's important to know that there will be parts of you that may judge, God, if we're going to couples counseling, this really isn't for me. But what you've got here is everything on paper right in front of you so that you can intellectually reprocess. You can brainstorm methods, and you can use trusted friends to help you brainstorm methods. Or you can even go to your partner or your boss or anybody with this information and say, hey, this is what I'm realizing how I'm feeling. This is what I'm realizing how I want to feel or how I want things to be. Do you have any suggestions of how I can get from point A to point B with someone that you trust and go outside of your kind of span of consciousness there?
So basically, once you have some clarity on where you are now and where you'd like to be, and you have some clarity on what you can do to start bridging that gap, then it becomes obvious there's lots of stuff you can do to improve your situation, to improve the relationship that you're in, to improve the job that you have. All kinds of things can be done to fix that situation. However, once you get to a point where you've been very clear about what you want, you've been making some effort to move it in the right direction, and it's just not really working. You know, the relationship, the job, the city, that whatever that situation is, it's just not working out, and you keep having these signs that it's time to move on. Then at that point, it's really important that you actually do listen to yourself on that level and to make that leap. And it can be scary. It can be really, really easy to put that off. You want to talk about procrastination. Man, it's really easy to procrastinate on something that has an effect on your entire life, because we just fall into this sort of magical thinking where we think, well, something will change. Something will surely happen.
Right.
Like something will happen so that I don't have to make a big deal about this. And hey, sometimes it does happen. Sometimes things have a way of taking care of themselves.
Things can definitely change, but you're completely empowering yourself by sitting down and saying, what are the changes I want to make? Now, we're saying have a balanced mindset of like, okay, maybe we're not talking about an overnight change. We're talking about how do you implement change? How do you kind of construct your reality? And there's a spiritual aspect to this, which is like I'm taking my life into my hands. I'm using my free will or whatever you believe in, and really trying to choose and create the life that I want. And are there ways to pivot and change? Change happens all the time. I mean, you can completely do a 180. It happens all the time, physically, mentally, financially, emotionally. I mean, that's why people love movies in which somebody has a big pivot point or kind of a climax where something changes and they change a behavior. And it's one of the most amazing things. And we love that because we want that for ourselves if we're in a place that we're not so thrilled about.
Yeah, and it really, really is possible.
Totally.
I mean, looking back on...
We're proof of it.
A year, I can't imagine the amount of change that's happened financially, relationship-wise, emotionally, spiritually, in every area of life in just the last year has been really, really vast. And it's possible. It just takes a little bit of clarity on where do you want to go? What is the direction that you want to head with all these areas, right? And having I guess you could call it a sort of no nonsense approach of, I'm not going to tolerate anything less. I'm just not. Like, if I want to have a happy relationship full of love and laughter and caring, and I find myself in an abusive relationship, or maybe it's not even that bad. Maybe it's just okay. You have the right to do something about that. And that doesn't always mean leaving, but it means doing something about it to make the situation better. Now, I think we've addressed that part of it. I think now let's move into the crowd that, okay, you've identified that there's a situation in your life that you'd like to improve, or maybe you'd like to leave it. However, there's a lot of different excuses that are kind of holding you back. Like, I have nothing to, if I can't leave my job because there's no other job that I can get. I can't leave my partner because there's nobody else for me. I can't go to another city. I don't know anybody there. Whatever your excuse is, or let's call it I call it an excuse, but for you, it might seem like a very legitimate reason. Whatever it is, it's something that's blocking you from doing that thing. And you've got to get clear on, is this a legitimate reason that, that nobody could ever overcome? Or is this kind of just my own little excuse, and with a little bit of effort, I could totally break this boundary? And I think there's some tools to do that. So number one is you want to look at the examples of, is there anybody in the whole wide world that has done something like this, you know, and you can kind of just give yourself a little bit of confidence starting with, is there anybody in the whole wide world that has quit their job and gotten a new job?
Yeah.
Is there anybody who has gotten out of a relationship and gotten into a better relationship? Is this possible? Is this physically possible, you know? And
I've done all those things, by the way.
Same.
Dopest decision of all time that I've ever made. And all those were the dopest decisions ever.
It's really, really possible. And from there, you can just start baby stepping it. And okay, is this possible for me? Why do I believe yes or no? Why do I believe that something is going to stop me? And, you know, on top of that, you might even believe that it is possible. You might believe that it's possible for you. And yet that same procrastination will still be there, where you just can't get the energy to do it. You just can't sum up the will to do it. And there may be moments where you're like, I've had enough. I promise this is it. I can't do it anymore. Tomorrow I'm quitting, or tomorrow I'm telling that person what I want to tell them, or tomorrow I'm cleaning my room. Or tomorrow I'm quitting the cigarettes, I'm quitting the drugs, whatever it is. And then the next day comes, and all that energy that you had kind of piled up and concentrated into focus and drive and determination has just, it's gone.
Yeah.
And now you're back to square one. You might have to repeat that. Some people do. Some people have to repeat that pain of getting all fired up and then not doing it and suffering the consequences. Getting all fired up, not doing it, suffering the consequences. That might happen to you a few times. I know it happened to me more than I care to admit with a lot of different areas of my life.
We call that people that have to learn the hard way. I think you got two of them here to a certain extent. But Ennis is right. A lot of us are calibrated to not do anything until it just sucks so bad. If you're at this place, Ennis is saying, where you're just hitting a point where you're like, I've got to get out of here. I've absolutely got to get out of here. And you've really sat down and kind of explored, am I just, was it just a bad day, or is that bad day happening over and over and over again? It's not just a bad day. Whether it's something internally you need to change or externally you need to change, there needs to be a change there. There's just no doubt about it. And that level of suffering is, in a way, kind of voluntary. And it's caused by, I wouldn't even call it procrastination. I would call it the freeze and the fight, flight, or freeze right there. Because you're just, you feel like you're stuck in a way. And that feeling of stuck is completely made by only you, as far as you could easily throw this problem to a friend or a counselor or a coach or somebody, and they could probably come up with 25 things that you could do that you haven't thought of. And that's why having a trusted friend or a coach or a counselor is extremely valuable. So let's pivot into, what do you do if you're in a situation, you've tried to kind of facilitate change, it's not working, you realize it's a toxic situation, and you just need to get out. Well, you come up with a plan, a mid to long-term plan, to figure out how you disarm some of the collateral damage. So you identify, and you can literally write this down, which is the best way to do it always, because it goes back in for reprocessing. You can write down, what are the fears that I have? What are the anxieties I have about leaving my job? Let's use that for an example. So I'm worried I'll have less money. I'm worried that I won't find a job that's as good. I'm worried about, the commute. I'm worried about this. I'm worried about that. And you can use those to start to really narrow your search, and also to do some systems thinking and coming up with an intelligent exit strategy for whatever the situation is. So, for example, a relationship, maybe you're worried, I need to find a new place to live. I need to do this. I'm worried that I'm stuck here for all these reasons. Find ways that maybe in 3 months or 4 months that you can set these things up and have a specific plan that addresses them. And once you have that plan, you'll feel this wave of anxiety lift. Not all of it, because there still is going to be maybe some confrontational anxiety or some guilt or shame about whatever, but you'll just feel this like, okay, I see this light at the end of the tunnel, I have hope, and I feel grounded.
Having a plan and having options, they kind of go together, right? You have to have options to have a plan. And when you have that, it can relieve the anxiety both in big things and in small things. So maybe it's something big like a relationship or a job. Having a plan of transition, as Jim was saying, is a massive, massive relief. But you can also apply this with small things. Let's say you're anxious about tomorrow and all the things you need to do tomorrow, and you feel overwhelmed. I remember nights where I was having trouble falling asleep, and what I would do is I would get up and I would make a plan. I would write down all the things that I needed to get done tomorrow, and I would basically make a plan of what am I going to do first, how am I going to do that. If there was something kind of confusing or a big question mark, I would think through it for a second. And this would only take maybe 10, 15 minutes to plan out my day, but it made falling asleep so much easier. And it even made waking up the next day better, because instead of being hit with this, what am I going to do? There was this clear, concise plan, and everything had already been thought about. So don't underestimate the power of really just having some options and a plan, and having that written down to where you can look at it and just remind yourself, like, okay, I'm not stuck here. There's some clarity. There's a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, and when even with small tasks to big life situations, anything that keeps coming up that you don't take an action on, that's just kind of floating in this purgatorial state in your mind, it needs to go somewhere. So the reason it keeps flashing in your mind, or the reason it's causing anxiety, is because it doesn't have anywhere to go. There's no next action item. So what I recommend for small tasks, or if you're somebody who thinks of things when you're driving or when you're at work and you can't take care of them right away, is put them in one place, one phone note, one Google Drive document, one piece of paper that you carry in your pocket. Put them in one place to be addressed for later, and you'll find incredible things happen. Like Ennis said, when he had all these things floating around in his mind, and all he did was get up, write them down, put them in one place where he said, okay, tomorrow I got a plan of action. That's going to soothe all those anxious parts. We're like, hey, don't forget about this, or hey, we can't worry about this. Like, no, it's taken care of. Now they've got the trust that they can calm down. You've got things under control. And this works with big situations too, with like, oh God, this relationship is just killing me, or oh, these kids are out of control and I don't know what to do. There needs to be a plan and an action taken. Otherwise, that thing's going to be like, hey, we are in danger of this home situation sucking, or we're in danger of feeling like a failure, or we're in danger of going back to this job that feels like it's sucking our soul away. So if you don't know what to do, what the next step is, then do some research and get some more information. Talk to a coach, talk to a counselor, read some books about parenting or about how to advance in your professional career, or even think about taking some classes or something, some kind of action that's moving you forward, because that stuck feeling is the worst, and it's gonna just completely cultivate this horrible anxiety inside you. It's so wretched though.
Yeah, it really does suck. And keep in mind, guys, you don't have to have a perfect plan. It could just be the next couple steps.
Right.
Just the next couple steps. What are you going to do tomorrow? What's the big picture look like? It doesn't have to be this perfectly fleshed out game plan. Just have a little bit of intention. Again, to summarize everything we've talked about, have some clarity on where you are now in all your areas of life, all the different areas. Get clear on where you are now. Be honest with yourself, at least. Be honest. Get clear on where do you want to be. What is your ideal situation a year from now look like, and then just start coming up with a plan in all those areas, and have a mini plan for all those areas of life, how you're going to get from point A to point B. And you'll notice a lot of anxiety just with that clarity and with that plan. A lot of anxiety will go away, and more importantly, you'll start to actually take some steps. You'll start to go towards that vision of your life that is so possible. It's so right there, and you just got to go out there and grab it. And
just remember, guys, that this is something you do over and over. This is a new practice that you integrate: the planning, the executing, the reflecting on it, and the repeating of it. And guys, most importantly, just remember, no matter where you are, no matter how crappy or stuck you feel, you're never stuck. You might just need some help. If you like what you hear here, please like and subscribe. For Ennis, I'm Jim. Thank you guys so much for your time. And remember, good mental health means a good life. That was a good line. Off the cuff, man.